I came home from my nursing shift to find my bedroom door standing open. My lockbox sat on the floor, empty. $20,000 in cash, gone. My younger sister Stephanie leaned against the doorframe, designer shopping bags hanging from her perfectly manicured hands, wearing a brand new leather jacket that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She watched me with this smug little smirk, clearly waiting for the tears, the screaming, the complete breakdown. Instead, I smiled. A real, genuine smile that reached my eyes. Her expression faltered, confusion replacing that satisfied glow. From downstairs, our father's voice boomed through the house. "Stephanie, get down here right now. What happened to your tuition money?" The color drained from Stephanie's face like someone pulled a plug. My hands stayed steady as I set down my purse and hospital badge. Stephanie's eyes darted between me and the staircase, her confidence cracking like thin ice under pressure. I could hear our mother's voice joining Dad's downstairs, sharp with panic. "We need to talk about this right now, young lady," Mom called out. Stephanie shot me one last look, something between anger and fear, before turning toward the stairs. I followed behind her, taking my time, watching her designer heels click anxiously against each wooden step. My smile never wavered. Whatever was about to happen downstairs, I was ready for it. The living room felt smaller than usual, with all four of us crammed into it. Dad stood by the fireplace, his face red and blotchy the way it got when he was trying not to explode. Mom perched on the edge of the sofa, twisting a tissue between her fingers. Stephanie positioned herself near Mom, already building her defense. "Sit down, both of you," Dad said, his voice tight. I took the armchair across from them. Stephanie remained standing until Mom patted the cushion next to her. Dad started pacing, running his hand through his graying hair. "Your tuition bill is due in 3 days. $15,000 for the semester. The money was in the account 2 weeks ago. I checked this morning and it's gone. All of it." Stephanie opened her mouth, but Dad held up his hand. "I checked the withdrawal history. You took it out, every penny. You said you needed it for textbooks and supplies." He gestured at the shopping bag she'd dropped by the door. "Those don't look like textbooks to me." "Daddy, I can explain," Stephanie started, her voice taking on that little girl quality she always used when she wanted something. "I'd love to hear it," he said, crossing his arms. Stephanie glanced at Mom, then at me, then back to Dad. "I did buy some textbooks, but I also needed new clothes for my internship interviews. And I had some expenses come up. It just got away from me a little." "A little?" Dad's voice rose. $15,000 got away from you a little?" Mom reached over and touched his arm. "Gerald, please, let's stay calm." "Calm? Patricia, her tuition is due in 3 days. If we don't pay it, she gets dropped from her classes. She loses the entire semester." The room went quiet except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Then, slowly, both of my parents turned to look at me. I'd been waiting for this moment. I knew it was coming the second I heard Dad's voice from upstairs. Mom spoke first, her tone gentle, pleading. "Athena, honey, you've always been so good with money. You're working full-time at the hospital. Is there any way you could help your sister out? Just this once? Just this once." I'd heard that phrase my entire life. Just this once. Could I help Stephanie with her homework? Just this once. Could I cover her shift at the family business? Just this once. Could I lend her money she'd never pay back? "Let me get this straight," I said, keeping my voice level. Stephanie stole $15,000 from the family account that was meant for her education. She blew it on shopping sprees and expensive dinners. And now you want me to bail her out? "Athena, don't be dramatic," Mom said. "We're asking you to help your sister. Actually, there's something else we need to discuss." I leaned forward in my chair. Stephanie didn't just steal from the tuition account. She came into my room today while I was at work. She broke into my lockbox and took $20,000 in cash that I'd been saving. Stephanie's face shifted instantly from guilty to indignant. "That's not true. I didn't take anything from your room. You're just jealous because I finally have nice things." "Jealous?" I almost laughed. "You stole my money, Stephanie. Prove it, she shot back. Mom looked between us, confusion and concern warring on her face. Athena, that's a very serious accusation. Are you sure? Maybe you miscounted or moved it somewhere else? I didn't miscount. I had exactly $20,000 in that lockbox this morning. I checked it before I left for work. Now it's empty, and Stephanie shows up with thousands of dollars worth of new clothes and accessories. Dad rubbed his temples. Girls, please? This isn't helping anything. Where's your proof? Stephanie pressed. You can't just accuse me of stealing without evidence. She had me there. I'd kept the money in cash specifically because I was saving secretly for a down payment on a house. I didn't want anyone to know about it, didn't want to hear Mom's lectures about being too independent or Dad's suggestions about investing it in his business instead. There were no bank records, no receipts, no paper trail. I kept it in cash, I admitted, but I know what I had and I know it's gone. So you have no proof. Stephanie crossed her arms, mimicking Dad's earlier stance. This is ridiculous. You're trying to deflect from the real issue here because you don't want to help me. Mom sighed deeply. Gerald, what are we going to do about the tuition? Dad looked at me, and I saw the expectation in his eyes, the same expectation I'd seen my whole life. Athena would fix it. Athena always fixed it. Look, he said, trying to sound reasonable. Whoever's right or wrong about what happened in Athena's room, the fact remains that Stephanie needs that tuition money. The deadline is in 3 days. Athena, you're working full-time. You're stable. Stephanie is still in school, still building her future. Her future that she's apparently building on stolen money? I stood up. This is unbelievable. She steals from both of us, and somehow I'm the bad guy for not wanting to reward that behavior? No one's calling you the bad guy, Mom said quickly. We're just asking you to think about your sister's education. Her future. What about my future? That money she took from me was for a house. My house. My future. Stephanie rolled her eyes. You're 28 years old and still living at home. Maybe you should focus on that before worrying about buying a house. The comment stung, mainly because it was true. I'd stayed living at home to save money faster, and because my parents asked me to help with household expenses after Dad's business had a rough year. Another thing I'd done just this once that turned into a permanent arrangement. I'm done with this conversation, I said, grabbing my keys from the table. Athena, wait, Dad called after me. But I was already heading for the door. Behind me, I heard Mom comforting Stephanie, heard Stephanie's fake sniffles start up. They'd made their choice, same as always. It didn't matter that Stephanie was a liar and a thief. It didn't matter that I'd been the responsible one my entire life. When push came to shove, they expected me to sacrifice everything to fix her mistakes. I drove to my best friend Claire's apartment across town, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. By the time I knocked on her door, tears were streaming down my face. All the composure I'd maintained in front of my family finally cracked. Claire took one look at me and pulled me inside. What happened? I told her everything while she made tea neither of us drank. When I finished, she was pacing her small living room, furious on my behalf. This is the pattern, Athena. This is what they've always done. Stephanie screws up, and you fix it. Every single time. I know. So what are you going to do? I don't know. If I pay the tuition, I'm enabling her. If I don't, my parents will never forgive me. And if you don't? Claire sat down across from me. Then what? Stephanie faces actual consequences for once in her life? That's not your problem. They'll hate me. They're already choosing her over you. What's the difference? I stayed at Claire's until nearly midnight, going over and over it in my mind. When I finally drove home, the house was dark except for a light in the hallway. I tried to be quiet, but as I passed Stephanie's room, her door opened. She stood there in silk pajamas that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, her makeup still perfect, her smile sharp as a knife. They'll always choose me, she whispered. You know that, right? You're just the workhorse, the reliable one, the boring one who fixes things. I'm the one they love. I'm the baby, the special one. So, whatever little rebellion you think you're staging right now, it won't work. Better start writing that check, big sister. 3 days and counting. She closed the door softly, leaving me standing alone in the dark hallway, wondering how my sister had turned into such a stranger. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Stephanie's smirk, heard her whispered threats. By 5 in the morning, I gave up and sat at my desk, pulling out every financial record I had. Something wasn't adding up, and it hadn't been for a while. I started with my bank statements from the past 3 years, laying them out in chronological order. My checking account showed regular deposits from the hospital, but the withdrawals seemed off. Small amounts at first, nothing alarming. $50 here, $75 there, but they were frequent, and at stores I never shopped at. I grabbed my laptop and logged into my online banking. In the search function, I filtered for all ATM withdrawals. The pattern became clearer. Withdrawals every few weeks, always in round numbers, always from ATMs near the mall or the upscale shopping district across town, places I never went. My heart started racing. I called the bank's customer service line, waiting through the automated menu until I finally reached a human being. "I need to report suspicious activity on my account," I told the representative. She walked me through the process, pulling up my account history. As we went through each questionable transaction, she flagged them in the system. "Ma'am, it looks like someone has been using your debit card information for quite some time. The pattern suggests they have your card number and PIN. Can you tell me where these purchases were made?" She read off a list: designer, boutiques, high-end cosmetics stores, expensive restaurants downtown. Every single place matched Stephanie's taste perfectly. "I'd like to dispute these charges and request a fraud investigation." "Of course. I'm noting all of this in your file. We'll issue you a new card and investigate each transaction. This could take several weeks." After I hung up, I sat staring at my computer screen. Several weeks. In the meantime, I'd already lost that money. But at least I had something concrete. Something that proved I wasn't crazy. Then another thought hit me, cold and terrible. If Stephanie had my debit card information, what else did she have? I pulled up my credit report, something I should have been checking regularly but hadn't looked at in over a year. The page loaded slowly, and when it finally appeared, my stomach dropped. 2 credit cards I'd never opened, both in my name, both with the same address on file, my parents' house, where Stephanie and I both lived. Card 1, maxed out at $15,000. Card 2, maxed out at $20,000. $35,000 in fraudulent debt. I clicked through to see the purchase history. Same pattern. Luxury goods, expensive dinners, designer clothes. The charges went back 18 months. Stephanie had been systematically stealing my identity for a year and a half. My hands shook as I printed out the credit report and all the statements. Then I gathered every piece of evidence I had and drove straight back to my parents' house, even though it wasn't even 7 in the morning yet. Dad was in the kitchen making coffee when I burst through the door. He looked up, surprised. "Athena, what's going on? Where's Mom? And Stephanie? Everyone needs to see this." 10 minutes later, we were all in the living room again. I spread the papers across the coffee table, like a prosecuting attorney presenting evidence. Stephanie hasn't just been stealing cash from me. She's been using my debit card for over 3 years. I pointed to the bank statements, and she opened 2 credit cards in my name without my knowledge. $35,000 in fraudulent debt that I'm now responsible for. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad picked up the credit report, his face growing pale as he read through it. Stephanie sat perfectly still, but I saw her jaw tighten. "This is identity theft," I continued. "It's a felony. I could have her arrested." "Athena, wait," Mom said. Tears already starting. "Let's not be hasty." "Hasty? She's been stealing from me for 3 years." Dad set down the papers. "Patricia, did you know about any of this?" Mom's silence was damning. She looked down at her hands, twisting that tissue again. "Mom, I felt my chest tighten. Did you know?" "Not about the credit cards," she whispered. "I swear I didn't know about those. But Stephanie told me she borrowed your debit card information once or twice. She said you knew about it. She said you gave her permission." "I never gave her permission for anything." She said you were helping her out because she was struggling financially. Mom looked up at me with pleading eyes. I thought you were just being a good sister. So you knew she was stealing from me, and you said nothing? I thought you agreed to it. She told me you offered. I turned to Dad. Did you know? No. His voice was firm. I knew nothing about any of this. Stephanie finally spoke, her voice steady and cold. This is such an overreaction. So I used your card a few times. Big deal. We're family. You committed identity theft. I borrowed some money. You have a good job. You could afford it. That's not the point. I was shouting now, all my composure gone. You stole from me. You lied to our parents. You've been systematically destroying my financial life for years. Maybe if you weren't so uptight about money, I wouldn't have had to. Dad stood up abruptly. Stephanie, that's enough. This is serious. This is criminal. Oh, come on, Daddy. She's not actually going to press charges. She's just trying to get out of helping me with tuition. This has nothing to do with tuition anymore, Dad said. You've committed fraud. Stephanie's confidence finally wavered. She looked at Mom for support. Gerald, she's our daughter, Mom said. We can't let her go to jail. We have to figure this out as a family. Figure it out? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She stole $35,000 from me using identity theft. That's not something we just figure out. Please, Mom begged, standing up and reaching for my hands. Please don't call the police. Think about what this would do to her future. She could go to prison. She'd have a criminal record. Her whole life would be ruined. What about my life? My credit is destroyed. I can't buy a house now. I can't get a car loan. I'm drowning in debt I didn't create. Dad cleared his throat. I have a proposal. Let me sell some of my stocks. I'll use the money to pay off those credit cards and cover Stephanie's tuition. In return, Athena, you agree not to press charges. We handle this privately, as a family. I stared at him. You want me to just let this go? I want us to find a solution that doesn't destroy your sister's future. She destroyed her own future the moment she decided to commit fraud. Athena, please. Mom was crying now. She's your sister. Don't you love her? That question hung in the air like poison. Of course I loved her. Or at least, I loved the sister she used to be, before the lying and stealing and manipulation took over everything. But love didn't mean letting someone destroy your life. I need to think about this, I said, gathering my papers. Think fast, Dad said. Because if you report this to the police, there's no taking it back. The consequences will be permanent. I left without another word, drove to the bank, and opened a new account at a different branch. I transferred what little money I had left and closed my old account entirely. Then I went to the police station. The officer who took my report was sympathetic but matter-of-fact. Identity theft cases were complicated, especially within families. I'd need to file a formal report, dispute the charges with the credit card companies, and potentially testify if it went to trial. Are you sure you want to do this? He asked. Family cases get messy. I'm sure. That evening, I came home to find Stephanie waiting in my room. She'd been going through my things, my closet door open, my drawers pulled out. Looking for something? I asked. She turned, and the sweet sister act was completely gone. If you call the cops, I'll destroy you. You already are destroying me. Not like this. She stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. I'll tell everyone you gave me permission to use your cards. I'll say you're lying because you're jealous of me. Mom will back me up. You'll look crazy, vindictive, like a jealous older sister making false accusations. I have evidence. Evidence can be explained away. But reputation? That sticks. I'll make sure everyone knows what a liar you are. Get out of my room. She smiled, that same cold smile from the hallway. You're going to regret this. Just wait. After she left, I sat on my bed and cried until there were no tears left. Then I called Claire again. She's threatening me now, I told her. Says she'll destroy my reputation if I go through with the charges. She's scared, Claire said. That's why she's threatening you. She knows she's in real trouble. But what if she's right? What if no one believes me? You have evidence. You have bank records. Credit reports, timestamps. You have proof. What if it's not enough? Then you keep fighting. Because the alternative is letting her win. Is that what you want? No, it wasn't. But I was so tired of fighting. Tired of being the responsible one. Tired of being the one who always had to be strong while everyone else got to be weak. I didn't know it then, but things were about to get so much worse. The police report took 3 days to process. 3 days of tense silence in the house, Stephanie avoiding me, Mom crying every time she saw me, Dad locked in his office, trying to salvage his stocks to pay off my debt. On the 4th day, I went back to work. I needed the normalcy, needed to focus on something other than my family falling apart. My supervisor Linda called me into her office an hour into my shift. She looked uncomfortable, wouldn't meet my eyes as she gestured for me to sit down. Athena, something's come up that we need to discuss. My stomach nodded. What kind of something? We received an anonymous complaint yesterday. Someone called the hospital administration and made allegations about you. What kind of allegations? Linda folded her hands on her desk. They claimed you've been stealing medications from the supply room, specifically controlled substances, painkillers. The room tilted. That's not true. I would never do that. I know this is difficult, but I have to take these allegations seriously. The complaint included specific details, dates, times, medication names, even cart numbers. Linda, I swear to you, I have never stolen anything from this hospital. The problem is that the details are very specific, too specific to ignore. Hospital policy requires that I place you on administrative leave immediately while we conduct a full investigation. Administrative leave? But I need this job. I have bills. I have debt collectors calling me about fraud charges that aren't even mine. I'm sorry, Athena. My hands are tied. This is protocol. If the investigation clears you, you'll be reinstated with full back pay. But until then, I can't have you working with controlled substances while there's an active complaint. I felt like I was drowning. How long will the investigation take? Could be a few weeks, could be months. These things are thorough. Can you at least tell me who made the complaint? It was anonymous. But they seem to have intimate knowledge of your work schedule and routines. Stephanie. It had to be Stephanie. I cleaned out my locker in a daze. The other nurses watched me with a mixture of pity and suspicion. Word had already spread. By tomorrow, everyone would assume I was guilty. That's how these things worked. Accusations stuck even when proven false. I drove home, but I couldn't face going inside yet. Instead, I sat in my car and called Claire. She's escalating, I told her. She reported me to my job, made up lies about me stealing medications. That's insane. Can't you prove it's fake? How? The complaint is anonymous. The investigation will take forever. In the meantime, I have no income. Come stay with me. I can't drag you into this mess. You're not dragging me anywhere. You need help and I'm your friend. That's what friends do. But I didn't go to Claire's. I went home and I went straight to Stephanie's room. She wasn't there, but I didn't care about privacy anymore. I tore through her closet, her drawers, looking for anything that might prove she'd made that call. What I found was worse than I expected. A notebook tucked under her mattress. Inside were pages of notes about me. My work schedule copied out in her handwriting. Medication, cart numbers from the hospital, procedure notes, times when certain drugs were administered. She'd been researching, planning this for weeks, maybe months. She'd visited me at work. I remembered now. 3 times in the past 2 months, she'd stopped by during my shift, claiming she wanted to have lunch with me. I'd been touched by the gesture, thought maybe we were rebuilding our relationship. Instead, she'd been gathering intelligence. I took photos of every page with my phone, then put the notebook back exactly where I found it. Evidence. I needed evidence of everything now. When Stephanie came home that evening, I confronted her in the hallway. She didn't even try to deny it. You filed that complaint, didn't you? She shrugged. Prove it. I found your notebook. All your notes about my job. Notes aren't a crime. Maybe I was just interested in your work. You're trying to destroy my career. I'm protecting myself. You filed a police report against me. Did you really think I'd just let you ruin my life without fighting back? I'm not ruining your life. You did that yourself when you stole from me. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Drop the charges, and I'll retract the complaint. Tell the police you were mistaken, that it was all a misunderstanding. Do that, and your precious nursing career stays intact. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a deal. Drop the charges, or we both lose everything. I wanted to hit her. For the first time in my life, I wanted to physically hurt my own sister. Instead, I walked away, called Linda, and explained the situation. Linda listened carefully. Do you have proof that your sister made the complaint? I have photos of her notebook where she documented all the details she used in the complaint. Send them to me. I'll pass them along to HR and administration. This changes things. Will it stop the investigation? No, but it adds context. If we can prove the complaint was malicious and fabricated, it'll go a long way in clearing your name. It wasn't enough, but it was something. The next few days passed in a blur. No work meant no routine, no structure. I spent hours on the phone with credit card companies, disputing charges, filing paperwork. The fraudulent debt was still on my credit report, dragging my score down into the basement. Bill collectors started calling. The hospital's insurance had lapsed my coverage since I was on leave, and I had a prescription I needed to fill that now cost $300 out of pocket instead of $15. My savings account was empty. The $20,000 Stephanie stole was still gone. My checking account had maybe $400 left. I was running out of options fast. Claire offered to loan me money, but I refused. I'd been burned too many times by family members who treated my money like a community resource. I wouldn't do that to a friend. Then came the text message. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. A photo of Marcus, my boyfriend of 2 years, sitting at a coffee shop table across from Stephanie. They were laughing together, his hand resting casually near hers on the table. The message that followed was simple. He's better off with someone fun anyway. My blood ran cold. I'd been so consumed with the financial fraud and the work situation that I'd barely talked to Marcus all week. He knew something was wrong, but I'd kept the details vague, too embarrassed to admit my sister was destroying my life. I called him immediately. Are you with Stephanie right now? What? No, I'm at home. Why? Someone just sent me a photo of you two together at a coffee shop. Athena, I haven't seen your sister. Not recently, anyway. Marcus, I need to know the truth. Have you been talking to her? There was a pause, too long, too guilty. She reached out to me on social media a few days ago. She said she was worried about you. Said you were going through something and wouldn't talk to anyone about it. And you believed her? She's your sister. I thought she was genuinely concerned. We met for coffee once, just to talk about how to help you. When? Yesterday afternoon. The photo was real then. What did she tell you? Athena, maybe we should talk about this in person. Just tell me what she said. Another pause. She told me you've been having problems, that you're struggling with prescription pill addiction, that you stole from the hospital to feed the addiction, and now you're trying to blame her for your own mistakes. I couldn't breathe. And you believed that? She had evidence, Athena. Photos, text messages, documents. It all looked real. It's fake. All of it. She's manipulating you. She showed me a police report you filed against her. She said you're doing it to deflect from your own problems. I filed that report because she's been stealing from me for years. She committed identity theft. That's not what she said. She said you gave her permission to use your cards, and now you're trying to take it back because you're angry about something else. Marcus, you've known me for 2 years. Do you really think I'm a drug addict? I don't know what to think anymore. You've been distant all week. You won't tell me what's going on. Your sister shows me all this evidence, and it's convincing. So you believe her over me? I just need some time to figure out what's true. This is all really confusing. It's not confusing. She's a liar and a manipulator, and she's doing this because I reported her crimes. Athena, I can't do this right now. I need space. I need to think. He hung up. Just like that, 2 years of relationship ended because my sister was better at lying than I was at telling the truth. I drove to Claire's apartment and broke down in her living room. She held me while I sobbed until there was nothing left but exhaustion and emptiness. She's taking everything, I whispered. My money, my job, my boyfriend, everything. Then we fight back harder, Claire said. We document everything, we build an airtight case, and we make sure she can't hurt you anymore. We spent that night going through everything I had. Every bank statement, every credit report, every text message, every photo. Claire helped me create a timeline, a comprehensive record of every single thing Stephanie had done. It was past midnight when Claire asked the question I'd been avoiding. Why do you think she's doing this? I mean, I know she's always been the favorite and gotten away with stuff. But this is different. This is calculated and cruel. I don't know, maybe she's always been like this and I just didn't see it. Or maybe something broke in her somewhere along the way. Do your parents see it? They see what they want to see. Mom has always babied her. Dad makes excuses. I'm just the oldest, the responsible one. I'm not supposed to need anything. That's not fair. No, it's not. But it's been that way my whole life. I went home at 2 a.m, exhausted but clearer-headed. I'd been reactive, letting Stephanie control the narrative. It was time to take control back. But when I pulled into the driveway, I saw lights on in the house. Not just 1 or 2 rooms, but every light. Something was wrong. I ran inside to find my parents in the living room with 2 police officers. Mom was crying. Dad looked 10 years older than he had that morning. What's going on? I asked. One of the officers turned to me. Are you Athena? Yes. We need to ask you some questions about your father's business. My stomach dropped. What about it? Dad answered, his voice hollow. Someone's been embezzling from the company. Over $100,000. The IRS flagged it during an audit. All the transfers were made using your login credentials. I looked from him to the officers to Mom's tear-stained face. Stephanie had found a new way to destroy me. The officers questioned me for over an hour. When did I last access the business accounts? What was my password? Did anyone else have my login information? Had I made any large purchases recently that might explain sudden wealth? I answered everything truthfully. I hadn't accessed those accounts in over a year, not since I helped Dad set up a new bookkeeping system. Yes, my password was saved on the family computer in the home office. No, I hadn't made any large purchases. All my money was gone, stolen by my sister. We'll need to examine your personal financial records, one officer said. Go ahead. You'll see I have nothing. My accounts are empty, and I'm $35,000 in debt from credit card fraud. They exchanged a look. This was getting messy, complicated. Family financial crimes always were. After they left, I sat down with Dad and went through the business records. The pattern was clear and damning. Withdrawals every few weeks over 18 months, always on days when I'd been at work, always transferred to temporary accounts that were then immediately closed and the cash withdrawn. Dad, this is the same thing she did with the credit cards. She's been using my credentials to steal from your business and making it look like I did it. I want to believe you, Athena. But the evidence points to you. Because she planted it there. She's been planning this for months, maybe years. She's systematically framing me for everything. Mom came in carrying tea no one would drink. Maybe we should get Stephanie down here. We need to talk about this as a family. Where is she? In her room. She's been up there since the police arrived. I think she's scared. Scared. Right. Stephanie wasn't scared. She was hiding, waiting to see how this played out. I went upstairs and knocked on her door. No answer. I tried the handle. Locked. Stephanie, open the door. Go away. We need to talk about the business accounts. I don't know anything about that. I tried a different approach. The police are investigating. They're going to find out the truth eventually. If you come clean now, it'll be better for you. The door opened. Stephanie stood there in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, looking young and innocent. She'd been crying, or at least made it look like she had. I can't believe you're trying to drag me into your mess, she said. My mess? You're the one who's been embezzling from Dad's company. I haven't touched Dad's business accounts. I don't even know the passwords. You knew my password. It was saved on the computer. So were everyone's passwords. That doesn't mean I used them. I wanted to grab her, shake her, make her confess. Instead, I pulled out my phone. I'm done playing games. I'm going to prove what you've been doing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about everything that had happened, every piece of this nightmare puzzle. There had to be something I was missing, some way to prove Stephanie was behind it all. Then, I remembered. 3 months ago, Dad had complained about the office security system being outdated. I'd helped him research and install a new system with cloud-based storage. The cameras captured everything in the office, and the footage was stored online for 90 days. If Stephanie had been in the office making those fraudulent transfers, the cameras would have caught her. I waited until 3 in the morning, when I knew everyone was asleep. Then I drove to Dad's office across town, let myself in with my key, and logged into the security system. The interface was simple. I pulled up the dates of the largest withdrawals and started watching footage. There, camera 3, facing the main desk. Stephanie walking in, looking around to make sure she was alone. She sat down at the computer, typed for several minutes, then left. I checked another date. Same thing. Stephanie in the office, using the computer. I went through 6 different dates, 6 different instances of theft. Every single time, clear footage of Stephanie committing the fraud. I downloaded everything to a secure drive, made backups, and emailed copies to myself. Then, I kept digging through the system files. In the trash folder of the business email account, I found deleted messages. Stephanie had been emailing herself company files, financial records, account passwords. She'd been planning this for over a year. By the time the sun came up, I had everything. Irrefutable proof that Stephanie had stolen over $100,000 from Dad's business and framed me for it. I drove home, exhausted but triumphant. I finally had her. She couldn't lie her way out of video evidence. But when I walked into the house, Stephanie was waiting in the kitchen with Mom and Dad. She'd been crying again, real tears this time. "Tell them," she said to me. "Tell them what you did." "What are you talking about?" "I found your notebook. The one where you planned all of this. Where you wrote down how to steal from Dad's business and make it look like I did it." She held up a spiral notebook. My handwriting, my style, pages and pages of detailed notes about the business accounts, transfer procedures, how to cover tracks. I'd never seen it before in my life. "That's not mine. It was hidden in your room, under your mattress." "I didn't write that." "It's your handwriting," Dad said quietly. He looked broken. "She forged it, just like she forged everything else." Mom shook her head. "Athena, please, just stop. We know you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe you need help." "I need help? She's the one who's been stealing for years." "I think you should move out," Dad said. "Just for a while, until we sort all this out." "You're kicking me out?" "We think it's best if you take some time away from the family. Clear your head. Maybe talk to someone." I couldn't believe this was happening. "You're choosing her. Again, even with all the evidence, you're choosing her." "We're trying to help you," Mom said. "No, you're abandoning me. There's a difference." I went upstairs and started packing. I threw clothes into a suitcase, grabbed my laptop and important documents. Stephanie appeared in my doorway, and when I looked at her, she wasn't even pretending anymore. No tears, no innocence, just cold satisfaction. "I told you I'd destroy you," she said softly. "You should have just paid the tuition." That's when I knew. This wasn't about money anymore. Maybe it never had been. This was about power, about control, about Stephanie needing to prove she could take everything from me and get away with it. I finished packing in silence and carried my things to my car. Mom tried to hug me goodbye, but I pulled away. Dad stood at the window, watching but not helping. As I drove away from the house I'd grown up in, my phone started buzzing. Text messages, social media notifications, all coming at once. Stephanie had posted on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Long posts about her troubled sister who was struggling with addiction and mental health issues. She'd tagged me, tagged my friends, tagged people I worked with. The posts made her look like the concerned, loving sister trying to help while I spiraled out of control. She'd included carefully edited screenshots, out-of-context text messages, and enough truth mixed with lies to make it all seem credible. Within an hour, my phone was flooded. Some messages were supportive, most were not. People I'd known for years were suddenly looking at me differently, questioning everything they thought they knew about me. My reputation, built over years of hard work and integrity, was destroyed in a single morning. I checked into a cheap motel, the kind that charged by the week and didn't ask questions. I had maybe $600 left to my name, no job, no family, no home. Stephanie had taken it all. That night, I sat on the scratchy motel bedspread and seriously considered just giving up. Running away to another state, changing my name, starting completely over where no one knew me or my history. But then my phone rang. Claire. I saw the posts, she said. None of it's true, right? None of it. Then we fight. Come stay with me. We'll figure this out. I can't drag you into this. Stop saying that. You're my best friend. Let me help you. I moved to Claire's couch that night. She gave me space, gave me time to cry and rage and process everything that had happened. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Athena? A woman's voice, professional. Yes. My name is Janet Morrison. I'm a lawyer specializing in identity theft and family fraud cases. I saw some posts online about your situation, did some research, and I'd like to offer my services pro bono. Why would you do that? Because I grew up as the scapegoat in my family too. I know what it's like when everyone believes the golden child over you. And I'm really good at my job. It was the first piece of good news I'd had in weeks. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop and I told her everything. She took notes, asked questions, and built a picture of systematic fraud and abuse that went back years. This is winnable, she said, but it's going to take time and patience. I don't have much time. The IRS is investigating. I could face criminal charges. Not with the evidence you've gathered. The security footage alone is damning. We're going to build a case so airtight that Stephanie won't have any choice but to confess. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Then my phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. I'm sorry. For everything. Can we talk? I met him at a park the next day. He looked tired, guilty. I saw the posts, he said. And then I talked to some of your coworkers, people who actually know you. They all said the same thing, that the accusations didn't sound like you at all. You should have believed me from the start. I know, I'm sorry. Your sister was really convincing. She's had years of practice. What can I do to help? I wanted to tell him it was too late, that he'd chosen wrong and there was no coming back from that. But I was tired of being alone, tired of fighting by myself. Just believe me, even when the evidence looks bad. Just trust that I'm telling you the truth. I can do that. We sat together in silence, watching the sunset. And I felt some small piece of stability return to my life. But Stephanie wasn't done yet. The next morning, I got a call from the IRS investigator assigned to Dad's case. Miss Athena, we've received some new information about your case. Can you come in for an interview this afternoon? What kind of information? I'd rather discuss it in person. I went to the federal building downtown, my stomach in knots. The investigator, a stern woman named Miss Harrison, sat across from me with a thick file. Miss Athena, someone sent us a video recording. It shows you in your father's office, accessing the business computer. The timestamp corresponds to one of the fraudulent transfers. My blood ran cold. That's impossible. I have it right here. Would you like to see it? She turned her laptop around. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Someone who looked like me, wearing my clothes, sitting at the desk in Dad's office. But it wasn't me. The posture was slightly different, the way she moved her hands. Little details that someone who didn't know me well might miss. That's my sister. She's impersonating me. Do you have any proof of that? I pulled out my phone and showed her my security footage. I have video of her doing the same thing on 6 different occasions. She's been framing me. Miss Harrison studied both videos carefully. Then she made a call, asked someone from the technical analysis department to come down. 2 hours later, after comparing the videos side by side, the technical analyst pointed out the differences. These are 2 different people. Same height and build, but different gait patterns, different hand movements. Someone's trying to impersonate someone else. Miss Harrison looked at me. Your sister is very clever. She's been planning this for a long time. We'll need to bring her in for questioning. Based on the evidence you've provided, She's now the primary suspect. It was happening. Finally, after weeks of being accused and blamed, the truth was starting to come out. But I knew Stephanie wouldn't go down without a fight. The IRS scheduled a formal meeting for the following week. All parties required: Dad, Mom, Stephanie, me, and our respective lawyers. Janet prepared me thoroughly, going over every piece of evidence, every timeline, every detail. They're going to try to discredit you, she warned. They'll say you're bitter, jealous, making false accusations. Be prepared for that. I've been prepared for that my whole life. The night before the meeting, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how we'd gotten here, how a family could fracture so completely. Part of me still hoped Stephanie would just confess, apologize, try to make things right. But I knew better. The morning of the meeting, I dressed carefully, professional, put together, credible. Janet picked me up at Claire's apartment. "Ready for this?" she asked. "As ready as I'll ever be." The conference room at the IRS office was cold and sterile. Dad and Mom sat on one side of the long table with their lawyer. Stephanie sat between them, wearing a modest dress and minimal makeup. She looked young, innocent, scared. I sat across from them with Janet. The physical distance between us felt symbolic. Miss Harrison entered with 2 other investigators and a court stenographer. This was serious, official, everything would be recorded. "Let's begin," Miss Harrison said. "We're here to discuss the financial irregularities discovered during the audit of Gerald's property management business. Over $100,000 was withdrawn from company accounts over an 18-month period. Initially, the evidence pointed to Athena, as the withdrawals were made using her login credentials." She paused, looking around the table. "However, new evidence has come to light that suggests someone else may have been using those credentials without authorization." Dad's lawyer cleared his throat. "What evidence are you referring to?" Miss Harrison pulled up footage on the large screen at the end of the room, the security camera footage I'd provided, showing Stephanie in the office on multiple occasions. "This is from the security system installed at the business location 3 months ago. As you can see, Stephanie enters the office, accesses the computer, and conducts transactions. This corresponds with several of the fraudulent withdrawals." Stephanie's face went pale. Mom reached for her hand. "That doesn't prove anything," Stephanie's lawyer said. "My client occasionally helped her father with administrative tasks. Being in the office doesn't mean she did anything wrong." "Except we have more," Janet said, standing. "May I?" Miss Harrison nodded. Janet presented the deleted emails, the account transfers, the timeline showing Stephanie's pattern of fraud spanning multiple years and multiple victims. "This isn't just about the business accounts. Stephanie has been systematically committing identity theft against her sister for over 3 years. Credit card fraud, debit card theft, and now embezzlement. This is a pattern of behavior, not an isolated incident." Mom started crying. Dad stared at the table, his jaw tight. Stephanie sat perfectly still, but I could see her mind working, calculating her next move. "These accusations are ridiculous," her lawyer said. "My client made some poor financial decisions. She borrowed money from her sister with permission. This is a family dispute being blown out of proportion." "Then, explain the security footage," Miss Harrison said. "Explain the deleted emails. Explain how she had detailed knowledge of her sister's work schedule at the hospital to file a false complaint." The room went quiet. Miss Harrison leaned forward. "Stephanie, this is your opportunity to tell the truth. The evidence against you is substantial. If you cooperate now, it will go better for you than if we have to pursue criminal charges." Stephanie looked at her lawyer, then at Mom, then at Dad. I watched her consider her options, saw the moment she realized she was cornered. But instead of confessing, she did what she always did. She cried. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I just needed money. And it got out of control. But Athena, she was always so perfect, always had everything together. I was jealous. I wanted what she had." Mom immediately moved to comfort her. "It's okay, baby. We'll figure this out." "It's not okay," Dad said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. This isn't okay at all. He stood up, walked around the table, and stopped in front of Stephanie. Look at me. She did, tears streaming down her face. Did you steal from your sister? A pause. Then, yes. Did you steal from my business? Yes. Did you try to frame Athena for it? Another pause. Yes. Mom gasped. Dad's face crumpled, decades of parenting and hope collapsing in a single moment. Why? I don't know, Stephanie whispered. But I knew. It was never about the money. It was about power. About being the center of attention. About needing to prove she could destroy me and get away with it. Miss Harrison explained the options. Stephanie could accept a plea deal, full restitution of all stolen funds, 3 years probation, mandatory therapy, and a permanent mark on her record. Or they could pursue felony charges, which could mean prison time. Stephanie took the plea deal. The formal agreement took another 2 hours to finalize. Stephanie would pay back everything she'd stolen, though none of us knew where she'd get that kind of money. She'd be on probation, required to attend therapy, and banned from accessing anyone's financial accounts without written permission. She also had to publicly retract all false statements she'd made about me on social media and in the hospital complaint. After the meeting, I stood in the parking lot with Janet. Inside the building, my parents were still dealing with the paperwork. You did it, Janet said. You won. Then why doesn't it feel like winning? Because you lost your family in the process. That's the hard part about these cases. Even when you're vindicated, the relationships are still damaged. I watched Dad walk out of the building. His shoulders slumped. He looked like he'd aged 20 years. He saw me and walked over. For a long moment, we just stood there. I'm sorry, he finally said. I should have believed you from the start. I should have protected you instead of protecting her. Why didn't you? Because it was easier to ask you to be the strong one. You always were. Stephanie was always the one who needed help, needed saving. And we let that excuse everything. We turned you into the family fixer, and her into the eternal victim. I needed saving too sometimes. I know, I'm sorry we didn't see that. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is from the sale of some of my stocks. It's yours, to replace what Stephanie stole and to help you get back on your feet. I know it doesn't fix anything, but it's a start. I opened it. A check for $50,000. Dad, this is too much. It's not nearly enough, but it's what I can do right now. Take it, please. I did because I needed it. But it felt strange, accepting money from him after everything that had happened. Over the next few weeks, things slowly settled. The hospital completed their investigation and officially cleared my name. They offered my job back with a promotion and a formal written apology. The false complaint was permanently removed from my record. Marcus and I worked on rebuilding trust. It was slow, tentative, but genuine. He proved himself through actions, not just words. Claire continued to let me stay with her, though I started looking for my own apartment with Dad's check. Stephanie moved out of my parents' house, got a job, and started making restitution payments. We didn't speak. I wasn't ready for that, might never be. Mom struggled the most. She'd enabled Stephanie for so long that facing the truth meant facing her own failures as a parent. She tried to apologize several times, but the words always fell flat. Dad and I started meeting for Sunday breakfast at a diner halfway between our places. Neutral ground. We talked about safe things at first, weather and work. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt something that looked like a relationship. But it was different now. I had boundaries. I said no when I needed to. I didn't sacrifice myself to keep the peace. One morning, about 2 months after everything ended, I was sitting in my new apartment when someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find Stephanie standing there. She looked different, thinner, tired. The designer clothes were gone, replaced with plain jeans and a simple shirt. "Can we talk?" she asked. Every instinct told me to slam the door, but curiosity won out. I let her in. We sat at my small kitchen table, and for a long time neither of us spoke. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," she finally said. "I know I don't deserve that. I just wanted to tell you that I'm in therapy, and I'm starting to understand why I did what I did." Why? Because I was terrified of being ordinary, You were always so good at everything. School, work, relationships, and I was just kind of there. The pretty one, the fun one, but nothing substantial. I couldn't compete with you. So I tried to destroy you instead. That's not an excuse. I know. It's an explanation, not an excuse. What I did was wrong, all of it. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did now. I see the damage, and I'm sorry. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I always knew you were better than me. That's why I had to tear you down. I couldn't stand being in your shadow. After she left, I sat with those words. Part of me felt vindicated. But mostly, I just felt sad. Sad for the sister I'd lost, for the family that could have been, for all the years wasted on jealousy and competition. But I also felt free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't responsible for fixing Stephanie or managing my parents' feelings. I was just responsible for me. And that felt like the real victory. 3 months after the meeting with the IRS, I was finally starting to feel like myself again. I'd moved into a small but bright apartment in a neighborhood I loved. Work at the hospital was going well. The promotion Janet had helped me negotiate came with a significant raise and better hours. I should have known it was all too good to last. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday morning. I woke up to dozens of notifications on my phone. Someone had created new social media accounts using my name and photos and was posting terrible things. Racist rants, political extremism, offensive comments directed at my coworkers and friends. I immediately reported the accounts, but the damage was done. Screenshots were circulating. People who didn't know me well enough started questioning whether I'd been hacked or if this was really me. Then the emails started. Hundreds of them. Spam, harassment, signed up for every mailing list imaginable. My inbox became unusable within hours. I knew it was Stephanie. Who else would it be? I called Janet and she immediately helped me document everything. We reported it to the police as harassment and identity theft. But Stephanie had learned from her mistakes. This time, she was careful. The accounts were created using public Wi-Fi from coffee shops around the city. The email addresses were routed through VPNs. There was no direct evidence connecting her to any of it. She's escalating again, Janet warned. The plea deal constrained her legally, so she's finding other ways to get to you. What can I do? Document everything. Change all your passwords. Set up 2-factor authentication on every account. And be prepared for this to get worse before it gets better. She was right. That weekend, I came home from a shift at the hospital to find my apartment door slightly open. I called the police before going inside. Nothing was stolen, but everything was wrong. My clothes were cut up. Photos were torn. My laptop screen was smashed. Someone had gone through my entire apartment, destroying personal items while leaving anything valuable untouched. This is personal, the responding officer said. Someone's sending you a message. No security cameras in my building's hallway. No witnesses. No evidence of forced entry, which meant someone had a key or knew how to pick locks. I stayed with Claire that night, too scared to sleep in my own apartment. The next morning, I had all the locks changed and installed a security system. But the harassment continued. Fake job applications submitted in my name. False reports filed with the nursing board claiming I was incompetent. Anonymous complaints sent to my landlord saying I was a problem tenant. Each incident was small enough to handle individually, but together they created a constant state of anxiety and stress. I was looking over my shoulder constantly, waiting for the next attack. Marcus suggested I get a restraining order against Stephanie, but Janet explained that would be difficult without proof she was behind it. We know it's her, I said. Who else would it be? Knowing and proving are different things. She's being careful this time. Then came the worst attack yet. I logged into my bank account one morning to find it completely empty. Every penny I'd deposited from Dad's check, gone, transferred to an offshore account, and then withdrawn. The bank's fraud department was sympathetic but unhelpful. The transfer had been authorized using my login credentials, and the security questions had been answered correctly. As far as they were concerned, I'd made the transfer myself. But I didn't. I was shouting now, desperate. Someone stole it. Same person who's been harassing me for months. We'll investigate, but these things take time. Time I didn't have. The $50,000 Dad had given me, meant to rebuild my life, was gone. I was back to almost nothing. I called Dad, and he was furious. Not at me, for once, but at the situation. He promised to help however he could. But here's what I didn't tell anyone. I'd been expecting this. Not the exact method or the exact timing, but I knew Stephanie would come for that money eventually. It was too big, too tempting, too perfect a target. So 3 weeks earlier, I'd moved most of it to a different account at a different bank under a business name. What Stephanie stole was only $5,000, left as bait. The rest was safe. I reported the theft to the police, filed complaints with the bank, and made sure everything was officially documented. Then I waited. Stephanie made her first mistake 2 days later. She made a cash withdrawal from an ATM across town. The ATM had cameras. Her face was clear as day in the footage. I took it to Miss Harrison at the IRS, who was still monitoring Stephanie's probation. One call from her to Stephanie's probation officer, and suddenly Stephanie was facing violation of her plea deal. Using someone else's identity to commit fraud again, while on probation for doing exactly that, was a problem. But Stephanie still had one more move to make. I got a call from the hospital on a Friday afternoon. Linda, my supervisor, sounded stressed. "Athena, I need you to come to my office immediately." I went, my stomach sinking. What now? Linda wasn't alone. 2 administrators and someone from HR were there. "We've received some concerning information," Linda said. "Someone sent us documentation suggesting you falsified your nursing credentials." "What?" They showed me photocopied documents. My nursing school transcripts, altered to show failing grades. Employment records from my previous job with notes about disciplinary actions that never happened. A forged letter from a previous supervisor claiming I was fired for incompetence. All fake. All carefully crafted to look real. This is not true. None of it. Someone is trying to sabotage me again. "We have to investigate," the HR representative said. "Your nursing license is being reviewed by the state board. Until they verify your credentials, we have to place you on administrative leave again." Again? This is the second time someone has done this to me. It's harassment. "We understand, but hospital policy is clear. We can't have someone working with patients if there's any question about their qualifications." I wanted to scream. Stephanie had found the one thing that could hurt me most. Not just my job, but my entire career, my license, my professional identity. I called Janet from the parking lot, barely holding it together. "She's destroying everything again. My bank account, my reputation, now my nursing license. Breathe. We're going to handle this." "But Athena, I think it's time we go on the offensive." "What do you mean?" "We've been playing defense this whole time, reacting to what she does. It's time to take control. I'm going to file a comprehensive lawsuit against her. Civil damages for all the harassment, identity theft, and emotional distress. We're going to make this so expensive and so public that she won't be able to keep doing this. Will it work? It'll tie her up in court for months, cost her money she doesn't have, and force her to stop or face even worse consequences." I authorized Janet to file the lawsuit that afternoon. Within 24 hours, Stephanie was served with papers. The lawsuit laid out everything. Years of identity theft, fraud, harassment, emotional abuse. We asked for damages totaling $200,000 plus legal fees. Stephanie's response came through her lawyer. She denied everything. Claimed I was the one harassing her. Accused me of trying to destroy her life. But we had evidence, mountains of it, security footage, bank records, testimony from Marcus and Claire, documentation from the IRS and police. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. In the meantime, I had to deal with the nursing board investigation. I provided them with my actual transcripts, my employment records, letters of recommendation from supervisors. I explained the situation, showed them the pattern of harassment. They were more understanding than the hospital had been. Within a week, They'd verified everything and sent a formal letter clearing my name. The hospital reinstated me immediately and included another written apology in my file. But the stress was taking its toll. I wasn't sleeping. I'd lost 15 pounds. Every unexpected noise made me jump. I was constantly checking my accounts, my locks, looking over my shoulder. Marcus was worried. Claire was worried. Even Dad called weekly to check on me. "This has to end," I told Janet. "I can't live like this." "It will end. At the hearing. I promise you, we're going to make sure she can't hurt you anymore." The night before the hearing, I got one last message, a text from an unknown number. "You think you've won? You haven't. I'll destroy you even if it destroys me too. Family means never letting go." I showed it to Janet, and she added it to our evidence file. "She's unraveling," Janet said. "Good. Desperate people make mistakes." The day of the hearing, I dressed in my most professional outfit. Marcus came with me for support. Claire took the day off work to be there. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Stephanie sat on one side with her lawyer. I sat on the other with Janet. When the judge asked Stephanie if she'd been harassing me in violation of her probation terms, she did something I didn't expect. She smiled. "Yes, Your Honor. I've been harassing her. I've been trying to destroy her life. And you know what? I'd do it again." The courtroom went silent. Her own lawyer looked shocked. "She thinks she's so perfect," Stephanie continued, standing up. "Always doing the right thing. Always being responsible. Well, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being compared to her. I'm sick of being the failure while she's the success. So yes, I stole from her. I lied about her. I tried to ruin her career. And I'm not sorry." The judge's expression hardened. "Miss Stephanie, I'm finding you in violation of your probation. You'll be remanded to custody immediately to serve the remainder of your sentence in jail. Additionally, I'm granting a permanent restraining order preventing you from any contact with your sister." Bailiffs moved toward Stephanie. She looked at me one last time, and I saw something break in her eyes. Not remorse exactly, but recognition. She'd finally pushed too far, and there was no way back. As they led her away, Mom burst into tears in the gallery. Dad sat stone-faced, staring straight ahead. I should have felt triumph. Victory. Relief. Instead, I just felt empty. 6 months later, I stood in the living room of my new house. Not an apartment, an actual house with a yard and a mortgage and everything I'd been saving for before Stephanie turned my life upside down. The legal settlement had come through. Stephanie couldn't pay the damages herself. But Dad had taken out a loan against his business to cover it as part of his restitution to me. Combined with my savings and the promotion at work, I'd finally been able to buy the home I'd dreamed about. Marcus was helping me hang pictures, arguing good-naturedly about whether they were level. Claire was in the kitchen unpacking dishes and making entirely too much noise. My phone rang. Dad's name on the screen. "Hey," I answered. "Hey yourself. How's the new place?" "It's perfect. You should come see it sometime." "I'd like that." "Sunday breakfast at your place instead of the diner?" "Sounds good." There was a pause. "Your mother wants to know if she can come too." I'd been expecting this. Mom and I had barely spoken since the hearing. She'd tried to apologize, sent cards and emails that I'd mostly ignored. I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. Maybe I never would be. But I was tired of being angry all the time. "She can come. But Dad, I need you both to understand something. I'm not going to be the family fixer anymore. I'm not going to sacrifice my happiness to make everyone else comfortable. If we're going to rebuild any kind of relationship, it has to be on my terms. With boundaries? I understand, we both do. And Athena? I'm proud of you. For fighting back, for standing up for yourself. I should have said that a long time ago." After we hung up, I stood by the window looking out at my backyard. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. Everything here was mine, earned through my own work, my own strength. Stephanie was serving 9 months in county jail for the probation violation. After that, she'd have another year of probation, mandatory therapy, and a record that would follow her forever. I didn't know what would happen to her after that. Part of me still loved the sister she used to be, or maybe the sister I'd imagined she was, but I couldn't fix her. That had never been my job. I thought about the smile I'd given her that first day, when she stood in my doorway with her shopping bags, waiting for me to break down. She'd thought I was weak, that I'd crumble under pressure. She didn't know I'd been planning for that moment for months. Didn't know that the $20,000 she stole was borrowed from Claire specifically as bait. Didn't know I'd moved my real savings to a secure account weeks earlier. Didn't know I'd set up hidden cameras, documented everything, built a case brick by brick. That smile wasn't shock or despair. It was relief that she'd finally taken the bait. Relief that after years of enabling and excusing and looking the other way, she was about to face real consequences. I'd learned something important through all of this. You can't fix people who don't want to be fixed. You can't love someone into being better if they don't want to change. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is step back and let them face the consequences of their own choices. It's not your responsibility to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, even if that someone is family, especially if that someone is family. Real family, the kind that matters, supports you, respects you, celebrates your successes instead of resenting them. They don't ask you to be smaller so they can feel bigger. I'd lost my sister, at least the version of her I'd grown up with. But I'd gained something more valuable. I'd gained myself, my strength, my voice, my boundaries, my peace. Marcus came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. What are you thinking about? About how far I've come, how much I've learned. Any regrets? I thought about it honestly. I regret that it had to happen this way. I regret that my family broke apart, but I don't regret standing up for myself. Not for a second. Good, he said, kissing the top of my head. Because you're kind of amazing when you're not letting people walk all over you. Claire called from the kitchen. Are you two going to help or just stand there being adorable? We laughed and went to join her. That night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet, I sat at my new kitchen table with a cup of tea and thought about everything that had happened. The theft, the lies, the systematic destruction of my reputation and finances. The fighting back, the evidence gathering, the slow, painful process of reclaiming my life. If I could go back and tell myself something at the beginning of all this, it would be this. You're stronger than you think. The people who are supposed to protect you might fail you. The systems that are supposed to help might move too slowly, but you have more power than you realize. Document everything. Trust your gut. Set boundaries. Don't sacrifice yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you. And know that fighting back doesn't make you the bad guy. It makes you someone who knows their worth. I'd spent so much of my life trying to be the good daughter, the responsible sister, the one who kept the peace. In the process, I'd made myself small, accommodating, easy to take advantage of. Never again. Now I was the woman who owned a house she'd bought herself. Who had a career she'd fought to protect. Who had relationships built on mutual respect instead of obligation. Who knew how to say no without guilt. That version of me was worth fighting for. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Proud of you. You did the thing. You won. I smiled and typed back. We did the thing. Couldn't have done it without you. And that was the other lesson. You don't have to do it alone. Real friends, chosen family, people who show up when things get hard. Those are the relationships worth investing in. So, here's what I want anyone listening to understand. If you're the responsible one in your family, the one who always fixes things, the one expected to sacrifice for everyone else's benefit, know this. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to walk away from toxic people, even if they share your DNA. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. Fighting back against abuse doesn't make you the villain. Choosing yourself isn't betrayal. It's survival. It's self-respect. It's the beginning of actually living instead of just existing to serve everyone else's needs. Would I change anything if I could go back? Maybe I'd set boundaries sooner. Maybe I'd see Stephanie's manipulation for what it was earlier. Maybe I'd learn the word no before I turned 28. But all of it, even the hard parts, made me who I am now. And I like who I've become. I'm the woman who smiled when she should have cried. Because she knew something no one else did. She knew she wasn't the victim in this story. She was the one who'd set the trap and waited patiently for it to spring. And when it did, she didn't flinch. She didn't back down. She fought with everything she had, and she won. Not because winning was easy, but because she finally realized she was worth fighting for. If you're in a similar situation, dealing with family members who take advantage, who steal, who manipulate and gaslight, I want you to know you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not the problem. And you have more power than they want you to believe. Document everything. Find your people. Set your boundaries. And remember that choosing peace for yourself doesn't mean you're destroying your family. Sometimes families destroy themselves, and all you can do is save yourself from the wreckage. I saved myself. And if I can do it, so can you. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where a family member betrayed your trust? How did you handle it? What would you do differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's going through something similar. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps others find these stories and know they're not alone in their struggles. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more stories about overcoming family drama, workplace challenges, and personal betrayals. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. We all know someone who's the family fixer, the one who always puts everyone else first. Maybe they need permission to finally put themselves first for once. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, some clarity, or just the reminder that you deserve to be treated with respect, even by family, especially by family. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, you're stronger than you think.